Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Phyllis Lockett.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I was taught that the world has a lot of problems, but that I could struggle and change them. That intellectual and material gifts brought the privilege and responsibility of sharing with others less fortunate. And that service is the rent each of us pays for living. It's the very purpose of life, not something you do in your spare time or after you've reached your personal goals. These are the words and mantra that this year's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient has used to define her life and ultimately impact millions of children across our country. Marian Wright Edelman has been an advocate for disadvantaged Americans her entire life, a true champion of the civil rights movement. After being arrested for her activism, she attended Yale Law School to address racial bigotry and injustice head-on. She became the first Black woman admitted to the Mississippi Bar. There, she directed the NAACP Legal Defense and Education Fund, where she worked on voter registration drives and supporting those who were in prison that were fighting for their right to vote. In 1968, she moved to Washington, D.C., and served as counsel for the Poor People's Campaign alongside Martin Luther King, Jr. As founder and president of the Children's Defense Fund, she has worked tirelessly, speaking truth to power, to persuade Congress to overhaul foster care, support adoption, improve child care, and to protect children who are disabled, homeless, abused, and neglected. In 2000, she received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian award. Marian Wright Edelman, an American hero, a national treasure, an icon on whose shoulders we all stand.
Delighted to be here. And thank you for your work. And we got a lot more work to do. This is the most dangerous time we've had in 50 years, and we are not going to go backwards, and so we'll just have to determine that we're going to build a movement to move forward. So I hope this is going to be the commitment that's here. I have had great role models all of my life, and one of them was Sam Proctor, who was the great preacher at Abyssinia Baptist Church. He was also a Peace Corps head, country head, but he's somebody who was very eloquent, and when we bought Alex Haley's farm, he came and opened up the farm with a thing about, can these dry bones live? And he said, and he gave a little speech about the scratch line, and he said, we do not all start at the same scratch line, although there's one original position hypothetically for everybody. You were born here owning nothing, having earned nothing, just born. There you are helpless. You are indebted for everybody, but some of us opened our eyes and saw nothing but blessings just dumping on us. I opened my eyes, and there was Herbert and Thelma and my grandma Hattie, a slave in Chesterfield County in 1882, smiling on me. How in the world could I lose? Taught me how to read and sing 4-part harmony before I ever got to school. Taught me how to play the clarinet and the piano and made me go to Sunday school. Daddy didn't send us, Daddy took us. And if there was nobody in the Sunday school but one person, that would have been my daddy with his little 6 children. That's what I inherited. I didn't earn it. You can't get that with a Visa card. It was given to me. Now, all through my neighborhood, there were other young fellows, I could remember all of them. Daddies were drunk half the time. They didn't read in their homes. Nobody went to Sunday school, none of that. They started out below the scratch line. I started life way above the scratch line, and everywhere I went, someone said, aren't you Miss Hattie's grandson? Aren't you Herbert's boy? Skipped 3 grades, never was in the 3rd, 5th, or 7th grade, and everything was smiling on me. Finished high school at 15, went on to college on a scholarship. None of that did I deserve. I hadn't earned any of it. I started out with the head of steam. They had trained my mother and father, who learned poetry, Paul Laurence Dunbar, Alfred Lord Tennyson, and they gave all of that to us in great abundance, and my buddies up the street had none of that. Now, if we want these bones to live again, those of us who have inherited benefits that we did not earn or deserve need to turn around and help those who inherited deficits they did not earn or deserve, and help them to rise up to the scratch line where we are, so that they may earn and enjoy all the benefits that some of us take for granted. Can these bones live? He said, yes, these bones can live. And one of the things this country is going to have to remember is God did not make two classes of children. And we continue to have that myth and pursue our public policies and deny millions of children, 14.5 million, who are poor. That's 5 times the population of Utah. It's disgraceful, and it's going to be our undoing. And so I hope that those of us who were blessed with being born above the scratch line are going to get out here and do what we have to do to save our country, to save our children, and to end child poverty right now. Since we are so much on the defensive, we should be ready to go ahead and have an affirmative vision of what we ought to do. Because this really is a Noah's Ark time. And one of the things, we're pack rats in my family, and one day an anonymous sage's thing showed up in I don't know who it came from, where it came from, but it says everything you need to learn in life you can learn from Noah's Ark. And the first message, the first lesson was, don't miss the boat. And the United States is going to miss the boat to the future if we continue to destroy the seed corn and to let millions of children be in poverty, be killed by guns, not have health care, and are hungry. It's disgraceful. And so every day we should wake up and say, how are we going to save our nation, but how we're going to save our children, because that is going to be our undoing. We cannot let 14.5 million children be poor. Child poverty is terribly costly. MIT Nobel laureate economist Bob Solow did a study for us maybe a decade ago about the cost of child poverty. And he estimated that every year we keep 14 million children in poverty, cost about $500 billion. We had the Urban Institute look at 7 or 8 policies, housing vouchers, all of which they're trying to destroy right now, housing vouchers, earned income tax credit, health care, all the basic things that each of us want for our own children. And they estimated that if we would invest about $77 million, we could decrease overall child poverty by 77%, by 60% for all children, for black children, 72%. How do we keep doing the wrong thing to hurt children that cost us more? And we have these dumb policies of not educating our children, and the majority of our children in all race and income groups, as you probably know better than I, can't read or compute at grade level in 4th and 8th grade. We know what the dropout rates are, and among black and Latino children, 80% can't read. What are the children going to do in this globalizing world if they cannot read or compute at the most basic levels? Our biggest national security problem, our biggest economic security problem does not come from any outside group or nation. It comes from our failure to invest in an educated populace in a very competitive world. And we need to get with it. We need to get with it if we are going to be leaders. The second lesson from Noah's Ark, I'm not going to give you all of them, but we're all in the same boat. We are all in the same boat. I mean, when we look at the number of folk who can't get in the military, who's going to be our army? Who's going to compete with the Chinese and whatever? But we're all in the same boat, whether we like it or not. And the majority of our children already are children who are non-white, who are being born, and we may not like them, but we need them. And we need to invest in them. We can't do it for the right reason. So we have a self-interest that we really must pay attention to, even if our morality and our creed doesn't allow us to make sure that every child gets what they need. The third is just to plan ahead. It wasn't raining when Noah built the ark, and I'm sure everybody thought he was crazy. But we need to kind of prepare for the future, and the future is right now. And what is happening to our children, and the greatest threat to the safety net in the last 50 years, we can't let it happen. So you better get out here. If we care about the quality of life in our country and about just doing what is decent for every child and every sacred child. The last one I'm going to say, and I won't tell you, well, I got 2 more. Don't listen to the critics and naysayers. Just get on and do the job. You don't need to be a homecoming queen or run for anything. Just get out there and do what you've got to do to save your children. But my favorite is because everybody keeps waiting for the magic bullet and waiting for the Dr. King to come back. Dr. King's not coming back. We're it. Dr. King did not start a single movement. He responded to the welling up of people. And so, we're not going to have that great leader. And we can't be sitting there waiting, but he was able to encapsulate the pleas and the demands and the needs and the hopes of people who wanted to change. It was local people. Miss Parks wasn't the first one to sit down in Montgomery. Fred Shuttlesworth was in Birmingham. And people started decades before trying to challenge segregation. And get us in a room, civil rights people, none of us will agree on when did the civil rights movement start. And they will point to the Montgomery bus boycott and say, oh, no, March on Washington. And many of us really concluded with a bunch of historians that it was really when black soldiers started coming back after World War I and World War II and couldn't get treated as well as prisoners of war, German prisoners of war. But movements take a lot of seed sowing, a lot of seed planting. And all of us have to understand that Dr. King isn't going to come back. We're it. And we've got to get out there and get out of our comfort zones and build a movement that right now is going to say no to the new policies that want to take us back 50 years. They can't have the safety net. They cannot have our children's health care. And we need to be out there saying and being clear and to do whatever has to be done. Children don't come in pieces, and you're not here just to educate them in school. If they can't eat, they're not safe. You got to deal with the whole child, and we must want for other people's children what we want for our own. And so I thank you for what you do. It's movement time. It's getting out of our comfort zone time. And so we don't do it, who else is going to do it? I wear around my neck, and this is my wife, 2 ladies. And when I think I'm having a hard day, I just rub them. One of them is Harriet Tubman, who, you know about Harriet Tubman? I don't know if the president knows about Harriet Tubman. Maybe we should teach him. We should know our history, but at any rate, she started at the Underground Railroad. And but the thing about Harriet Tubman that I loved is she didn't just try to free herself. She kept coming back to bring other people to freedom. She boasted that she'd never lost a passenger on Underground Railroad. I don't know of any airline or train company that can beat that record. But the country can't keep moving ahead if it doesn't come back and get all those children whom we've left behind, left in prisons. It's the dumbest investment policy in the world for states to continue to spend 3 times more per prisoner for public school pupil. In this cradle of prison pipeline, we gotta break it up, okay? But Harriet Tubman, if she could do what she did, and do it as many times as she did, we can do what we have to do today. And my other lady, because we all want to be big dogs very often, and make sure we're all on TV. Well, you don't build movements mainly by TV. You have to get out there and build relationships with people and build trust. And you can't wait for the 4 years to come by. You got to be out there beforehand. And so Sojourner Truth is my other role model. And I wear the 2 of them every day. And her theory of change is one that I adapt. She was very eloquent, and she didn't take any guff off of anybody. And she was about to speak one day, and an old white man said, old slave woman, I don't care anymore about your talk for an old flea bite. And she said, that's all right, but the Lord willing, I'm going to keep you scratching. And so many of us want to be big dogs and have big press conferences and have big announcements. Change is hard scut work over time. It's planting lots of seeds. But enough fleas biting strategically can move the biggest dogs. And I have watched over the years the legislation that didn't come out of press conferences, just came from not going away, from just wearing them down, standing outside the bathroom when the senator comes out, when he won't see you. You just have to bug them. And in this time, which I think is the scariest time we've seen in the last 50 years, where they're trying to redefine the role of government and redistribute money, more money upwards at the cost of those who have nothing. This is the time for us to find our voice and find our vote and find our organizing, get rid of our egos, and save our children. And we can do that. And what a great cause. Thank you.